What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another review, and this time we're taking a look at The Munsters Revenge, a 1981 made-for-TV movie based off the Munsters TV show. Munsters Revenge tells the story of this mad scientist who creates these robots, and two of the robots look like Herman and Grandpa. As a result of this evil doctor's, criminal deeds, Herman and Grandpa are being framed for the crimes that their robotic counterparts are committing. And the entire movie is pretty much Herman and Grandpa trying to clear their names. So that is the overall story of Munsters Revenge. Let's talk about it. I love Munsters Revenge. This is the Munsters movie adaptation that I adore. I remember watching this movie countless times when I was a kid. This movie was actually my first exposure to the Munsters as a whole. That's why this movie has a very soft spot to me. I remember having the VHS tape, watched it countless times. I enjoyed this movie. This movie is, like I said, this movie was made in 1981. So this is 20 something years after the actual show had already ended its course and things like that. And this is, in a sense, this is a reunion for most of the original cast of the show, which is really Fred Gwynne, Al Lewis, and Yvonne DiCarlo. Since by this time, Butch Patrick, who played Eddie, was much older. Pat Priest was much older as Marilyn Munster, and she's supposed to be a teenager or someone who is in her early 20s. So, of course, those two actors are going to be recast. But I think the two actors who replaced them in this movie, I thought were fine. I thought the actress who played Marilyn, she was good. Like, she was really, really good as the character of Marilyn. She played a more modernized version of the character who was, more... who was not as girl next door-ish in a way, as as Pat Priest was in the TV show. This Marilyn Munster, she was an '80s girl. She did things. She helped try to investigate the case with this with this young detective that she's smitten with, trying to clear Herman and Grandpa. Like, she actually gets to do things. I like it. This Marilyn Munster has a spunkiness to her. I thought and she was well done. I liked her. I thought she fit into this movie really, really well. Of course, the returning cast members, as I mentioned, Fred Gwynne, Al Lewis, and Yvonne DiCarlo, they're just great in their roles. They play their roles just as good as they did during the original run of the TV show. Al Lewis and Fred Gwynne still have outstanding chemistry as Herman and Grandpa. Some of my favorite moments and jokes with these two are in this movie, and I think their chemistry can never be replicated, and their chemistry can never get stale. They're that good of a comedic duo. Love Herman, love Grandpa, Fred Gwynne, Al Lewis. God rest your souls. You guys are fantastic in these roles, and you just had awesome chemistry. No complaints whatsoever when it comes to that. Yvonne DiCarlo as Lily Munster. She doesn't get a whole lot to do, but she still plays the character just as good as she did in the TV show. I got no complaints with that whatsoever at all. As I already mentioned, the actress who played Marilyn, she was fine. The kid who played Eddie, he was good too. Eddie never really had much of a role in the two movie adaptations of the Munsters, and it's kind of thankless in a way. Like, in the TV show, Eddie actually has some episodes dedicated to him, but in the movies, he's kind of like a throwaway character. It's like, oh, here's Eddie Munster because it's Eddie, and people are expected to see the Munster clan. So it is what it is. Now, as opposed to the new characters, I think the villain of Dr. Diablo, he's hilarious. I love Dr. Diablo as a villain. I think the actor who played Diablo, Sid Caesar, he is so over the top and so goofy in this movie, but you can tell the man's having a ball playing this evil mad scientist type of guy with these robots committing all these crimes he can steal some Egyptian treasure at a costume party. It's completely ridiculous, over the top, but I love it. And Sid Caesar as Diablo, he's fantastic. I think he's great in this movie. He comes across as he's a typical mustache twirling villain, and he really tries to convince himself and everyone else that he's a descendant of Egyptian royalty, which makes it even more funnier. Sid Caesar as the villain of Diablo, he's definitely a highlight for me. He's hilarious. And one of my favorite scenes is when he's dressed up in a disguise trying to fool the cops about his secret laboratory. That entire scene is hilarious. Sid Caesar to me was used his fullest potential in this movie. He was outstanding. He was fun. He was a lot of fun. The whole thing with the robots, I thought was actually pretty cool as well. It's a good story, and it fit the tone of the 1980s version of the Munsters, and it really made the story feel more fresher and modernized. But by the same token, we also got a chance to explore different avenues. Like, what would happen if Herman and Grandpa were on the run and were fugitives? You know, the movie kind of explores that, and you get a lot of good comedic mileage out of them. Like when they're in jail, and when they first get arrested, Herman gets stung by a bee, and then he goes postal in a police department, kind of trashing everything. You know, Herman and Grandpa try to play detectives, trying to clear their names, to the point where they travel to Transylvania to get this rejuvenating life potion. You know, a lot of funny moments and a lot of funny gags happen because as we go through the story, and it works. And I also like the look of the monster robots themselves. You know, you get Grandpa and Herman, but you also get the creature from the Black Lagoon. You get the Wolfman. So, you know, that was a lot of fun to see, and that was cool to see, and how they brought those characters back in robotic form, working as henchmen for Dr. Diablo. So I like all that stuff. I thought all that stuff was good. The character of Glenn, who was the cop who was investigating the case and is also being smitten with Marilyn, you know, I enjoyed it. He was fun. Glenn was a good character. I enjoyed it. I like how he doesn't believe it at first, but as the movie goes on, he gradually starts to believe it. And of course, I enjoyed the budding romance between him and Marilyn. I actually think this romance was much more interesting as opposed to the romance with Marilyn and the character of Roger from Munsters Go Home. I think this romance was much more better handled, mainly because I think these two actors are much, much better actors as opposed to the actors in Munsters Go Home. And their acting, it worked for me. It was natural, and I enjoyed a lot. And of course, this movie also introduces us to a new Munster family member, that being Cousin Phantom, played by Bob Hastings. For those of you who are not familiar with Bob Hastings, he voiced Commissioner Gordon in the old Batman animated series TV show. He plays the Phantom of the Opera, who is their singing cousin, and I thought Bob Hastings was a lot of fun. His biggest moment comes when he and Herman try to rescue Glenn and Marilyn after they are being held hostage by Dr. Diablo and his goons, and the Phantom sings so high he cracks the dome, but also just sings so high he becomes out of breath and just faints. And that was a lot of fun. That was very, very funny. And the whole running gag of him annoying everybody with his operatic singing to the point where glass breaks is a lot of fun. And it's a gag that this movie didn't overdo, this movie could have overdone that gag, but they kind of spaced that out a little bit, and I appreciate that. Like, you didn't get annoyed with the Phantom character. And I thought Bob Hastings' performance was a lot of fun. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I got to say about the Munsters Revenge. I love this movie. This is my favorite of the Munsters movie adaptations. This movie, to me, is still a lot of fun. I enjoyed it a lot. It's goofy, it's fun, and to me, it fits the tone of the Munsters TV show, but it also tries to modernize it a little bit by putting it in an 80s setting and just having more of an 80s feel to it. No, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed for that. I mean, is this a perfect movie? No, it does have a lot of flaws. It does have some story moments that can be a little stupid in a lot of areas, to the point where even suspending your disbelief can be blah. And not all the gags are going to be laugh out loud funny, but a good amount of them are laugh out loud funny. And that's why overall Munsters Revenge to me gets a solid 8 out of 10. I enjoyed this movie. I love it a lot. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Munsters Revenge. Let me know yours in the comment sections down below. Like this video and subscribe, and I'll check you back next time for more.